Born and raised in Columbus, Ohio State field hockey sophomore Mara Hunter is part of a scarlet and gray squad that is off to a decent start to their season. Picking up the field hockey stick in the 6th grade, Mara quickly developed into one of Ohio's better players and later starred at nearby Olentangy Liberty High School. She picked up some skills along the way through her annual attendance at OSU's field hockey camps under then-coach Ann Wilkinson. She was born a Buckeye. It was her dream to be one. In the spring of 2015, while attending camps around the country, that dream became an absolute nightmare.
I remember going to Louisville, like Ann said, and Miami of Ohio, and I was feeling so sick. At Louisville was the first one I almost passed out, and the trainer was like, well, maybe you have low blood sugar. I'm like, okay, I'll eat a candy bar, see how I feel.
And I was at Ohio State, and she takes the shot and then falls down and literally can't get up. She literally crawls off after this drill because she can't pick herself up.
It was Memorial Day 2015. I took her down to a tryout for the Olympic team. It was actually a field day for the junior Olympic team, and she passed out, and that was the second time that had happened within a 2-week period, and she was very lethargic all the way down. I had to drag her out of bed that morning, and I knew immediately that something was wrong.
And I sat down on the bench next to this girl who had just had, I think it was hip surgery or back surgery, I don't know, so she was just there. And I was sitting there, and she was sitting right next to me, really close. I don't know why I sat right next to her, but I just leaned over and I passed out on her shoulder, and I think I was out for 5-10 seconds. And I sat up and I was like, did I just pass out? And she's like, yeah, but it's okay. I'm like, I don't really think it's okay, but thanks anyways. And I went home, and then I went to the doctor after that.
Lab tests were sent to Nationwide Children's Hospital. A bone marrow biopsy revealed that Mara had acute lymphoblastic leukemia, a type of cancer of the blood and bone marrow that affects white blood cells.
I think I just was kind of in shock, but I was like, okay, this is not what I was expecting, I guess. I was just like, okay. My dad was like, are you sure? Getting really mad, and my mom was just sitting there staring at me, and I was just like,
Mara and I and Dan looked at each other. Mara and I hugged, we cried.
At first, you're just in a state of shock, for the first 24, 48 hours. It just, I'll never forget that day.
Mara underwent surgery and was in the hospital for 11 days. Although she went into remission within a few months of her diagnosis, her journey to recover was only beginning. Mara's junior year was spent at home taking online classes. With ample reason to be down, her radiant smile, positive attitude, and the close support of her friends and family would never allow that to happen.
Obviously, things had changed. Something that I remember that was kind of weird the first time it happened was I had to go over and watch her, essentially, babysit her. Not babysit, but there was some periods of her treatment where she couldn't really be left alone. And so having to go over there and just, I don't know, sit with her, and that was a little weird, but just making sure that I didn't treat her any differently, or I just didn't really talk about it because I know that, obviously getting treatment every day, that's all you're ever thinking about. And so just kind of being a distraction in a way.
We were a strong team, we were a strong unit. I was there with her all the time.
And she had, the most positive outlook, and was just taking her treatment like, hey, this is my life now, I'm gonna get through this, and it's just it's a bump in the road, but I'm gonna get through it. And yeah, always had a smile on her face. There were some tough times where she would, gut out a smile, but she always did.
I always found the good things to focus on rather than oh, I'm stuck in a hospital for 3 days. When will this fever go? Well, I'm like, well, I also don't get to go to school and sit through 7 hours, and I can do everything on my own, or I can eat whatever I want and not have to worry about gaining weight, and other people may have to do that. I just think that throughout the whole time I was thinking about the good things, the glass was half full, because I think that was really stressed by my doctors too. They were like, you can't get down on yourself, you have to know, they would always reassure me, they're like, you're going to be fine.
Although recovery was now at the forefront of her life, A field hockey career that was well on its way to the NCAA had come to a complete halt. Or so she thought.
I hadn't heard from anyone, like, since I was sick. And then, I mean, there was only one I was looking for, I guess. Like, I wasn't even, like, really thinking about anywhere else.
I've known Ann Wilkinson, the coach at the time, for years. And we had talked through the process and all of that. And September 1st is a big day for a college prospect. And it was a day that we had always thought it was just going to be official for her. And we talked that morning, and I just said to her, you know, if it doesn't happen today, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen, and you've got bigger pieces in your life right now that you need to put your attention to. And I really had almost chalked it up of there's no way it's going to happen.
Mara got the call she was looking for. She was going to be a Buckeye, but it didn't process right away.
And I think she was just like, okay, all right. And then we hung up the phone, and I wasn't sure if it really processed or not.
She said she wanted to offer me a spot, but I don't really know what that means. Like, if that's like as a manager or like as something or like as a player, I don't know, because I'm not playing. My mom was like, well, why didn't you ask? And I was like, I don't know. And so I texted her.
And then ding, my phone went off, and it was a text from her. And she's like, I just want to make sure I heard you right. Like, is that accurate that you just offered me a position at Ohio State?
And she was like, yes, of course, like, go Bucks and all this stuff. And I was like, thank you so much. And I just think after that moment, I was like, okay, I really got to get my stuff together and beat this thing.
Following graduation from Liberty, it was on to Ohio State and a new adventure. Navigating your freshman year at OSU presents challenges of its own, but Mara still had one last push towards the finish line.
The finish line was approaching, and I think, and it was hard because I was a freshman. If I didn't really know a lot of those girls, but the girls in my class and the girls on the team, they were awesome. They understood everything I was going through. I never got any questions as to about why I wasn't practicing one day or things like that. They just knew what I was going through. We got a new head coach, and I would be going into my freshman year. I was like, oh God, what if he doesn't understand my scenario and doesn't understand my story? This isn't gonna work out. And it was just everything I could have asked for. They're all amazing people, and I'm so grateful to them always.
It was a very joyful day that she didn't have to go back down to Children's Hospital, to get chemo. And but we had been there so many times that it was, it was just like business as usual. I remember sitting in the room when she was getting administered chemo, and she's like, "Dad, what are we doing for lunch? Afterwards, can you, just." She had done it so many times; it was just business as usual to her. And then I said, "Well, it's the last day. Go wherever you want." And but in my heart, it was very, very joyful day to know it was over.
Looking back on the most challenging part of her life, Mara is grateful. Grateful for her friends and family. Grateful for the game of field hockey. Grateful she now has an opportunity to give back. And grateful to be a Buckeye.
I think it was a growing and learning opportunity for everyone, because everyone around her just got to see actually how strong she was, and how positive she honestly was through the whole experience, and how she didn't let cancer taper her mood at all.
I can't express how proud I am of her maturity and her attitude. I mean, she played her senior year and led our team her senior year of just, and her, even while in treatment. I mean, she would literally leave and be like, I'm gonna go get a transfusion. I gotta leave practice early. I mean, it was laughable of how casual those kind of conversations were with her.
To see her on the field and to hear her name announced when they say, coming in, Mara Hunter, is truly, truly overwhelming, and I'm so very appreciative.
I just think she's just a tough person. She's just, she's always had that mentality, even going through, all of the chemotherapy that she went through, which was brutal. She always had a positive outlook that, she was going to beat this. And getting that call was just kind of icing on the cake. And her club coach used to call her El Fuego. That was her nickname, so a little fire, because she just had that kind of energy and that kind of toughness to her.
I'm excited for her. I'm proud of her. I knew that it was something that she could handle because of the way I saw her compete, or the way she stood up for herself no matter what the situation. And she was someone who always brought out the best in the people around her. And when this happened, it was amazing how that turned, because she has such a great support group with all of her teammates, her coaches, and I think that helped a lot.
It's like weird to say, but I'm thankful for it, because it really did give me a new perspective on like life, I guess, as corny as that is. Like, I do try to do a lot with like community service and like giving back, because I love doing things for other people, and I love doing things that like make other people happy. Like, I love giving gifts, I love like babysitting, and I love doing things like that. And I just think I wouldn't have had that if I didn't go out throughout this whole experience. I think it really did change me.